Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to change the world one brave word at a time. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the authors of a new book we have coming out, Find Your Voice, Save Your Life, 3 Powerful Healers, Spiritual Stories. These amazing women are sharing profound stories of their spiritual journeys. And this time I happen to be one of them in the book, by the way, which is kind of fun and exciting for me. This is the 3rd book in the series by lead author Dianna Leeder and part of her Voices of Women project. And I'll start by saying a big thank you to Dianna for getting this group of amazing authors together. Dianna has a big mission to help women find and share their voices. And today I am super excited to introduce you to several of the powerful voices in this book. Welcome, ladies. How you doing? You guys ready for this? All right.
Ready.
Good.
Doing great.
Good. Okay, so you guys, I have Ashley Moon with us. She is a decluttering empowerment coach, helping women organize their best self, space, and life so they can master their potential and truly live their soul's purpose. Ashley Hubler is a spiritual life coach who assists women to step out of struggle and overhaul their lives to live their authentic purpose. Mary Raddell is an intuitive body worker and soul Journey Akashic guide who brings the magic of transformation, empowerment, and embodiment to every client she works with. And Melissa Jolly Graves is a successful owner of Euphoric Source, a minister, a spiritual counselor, healer, and author who is on a mission to change the perspectives of non-believers. Yeah, you guys feeling the power of the women we have in this room today? I hope so. Okay, so Ashley Moon, tell us about your beautiful chapter.
Hello, good day, wherever you are in the world. And so my chapter is called Decluttering Magic and Empowerment, Letting Go and Getting Free. And I tell my story about releasing one of the most difficult things I've ever had to release, which was my relationship with alcohol and substances. I got sober a few years ago. It's the best thing I could have done. It was the one thing cluttering my life more than anything. So I've been a decluttering empowerment coach, and I help with your space, your mind, body, life, relationships, like let go of whatever's not serving you. And I was so good at that. But there was this one thing that I wasn't ready to let go of until I was brought to surrender, and I had to. So what I do in my chapter is I tell that story of letting that go. And then I relate it to what is something you're ready to let go, even if it's incredibly challenging. And here's how you can follow the same tools or steps that I have for physical decluttering, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, and whatever your thing may be, there's hope and support and ways to go about it. And I hope that my story and the tools I offer provide that for people out there.
Decluttering is one of my favorite subjects, actually. And I mean, so talk to me about integrating the different areas. Like, they all affect the other. If I know it sounds corny, but if I clean up my kitchen counter, then I can breathe better. There is literally a physical decluttering thing going on, but then there's also the way that happens in my body. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so everything is energy, and we're making decisions constantly. So if you can have your outer space reflect your inner space, that's the goal. I have a new school called Inner Outer Space Magic, and it really is about knowing what matters to you. So in the kitchen, for example, what are your health and nutrition goals? Are you making them from an empowered place of love? Can you release the things that are not feeding you those goals, right? And make space to receive what will. So for example, maybe you get rid of the fake sugars and you put in the natural sugars, whatever is going to make you the best version of yourself, right? And you can do that for each and every room in your home.
Yes, I took a class. It was a feng shui kind of class recently, and I want to tell everyone, like, y'all need to get on the decluttering bandwagon here. Understand the power in this, and we can't give away everything in Ashley's chapter, but you guys are going to have fun with this. Thank you, Ashley.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
Ashley Hubler, tell us about your chapter.
Hi, thank you for having me. So, my chapter is called Finding the Understanding Through the Akashic Records, How I Stopped Struggling and Started Co-Creating My Life. My life was a repeated drumbeat of struggle. Like everybody says when it rains, it pours, but like I would just get hit with a hurricane. And I didn't understand why until I found the Akashic Records and started looking at my own record. And then from that point, I started seeing those cycles in my life and how I was doing those. Like the biggest realization was, I was doing this to myself in one shape, way, or form. I was the one creating that reality for me. And I was able to then stop doing those things and start changing my life so that things were a lot more seamless and easy. And I was able to just let go of that toxic need for control. So I was very toxically independent. I could not ask for help. So that's what I talk about.
Toxically independent. I don't think I've heard those two words together before, and I totally get it. What did that mean though for you in your personal life?
So my personal life, it was rough. I struggled so much. Everything was hard. I mean, not a single thing would just come easy for me. I was very much that bull running through the wall, and eventually I would get through. So like I said, that toxically independence, it was just this need for control, this need to force the outcomes. And one of the biggest things that I learned in my journey is when you stop trying to force things, the universe takes care of it for you and allows those things to fall into place.
Yes, there's ease to be found there. I always get the visual of laying back onto the mat and just floating with the river rather than trying to get myself anywhere by trying too hard. I love that, Ashley. Thank you. So Mary, let's move to you. Tell us a little bit about your chapter.
All right, so mine is chapter 9, Resisting Surrender, Fighting to Find Yourself. And I'm super excited it's chapter 9 because it's about completion and new beginnings. So I was super excited when I saw that. I was like, thank you, thank you. So my story is about coming back to presence with my gifts and discovering my gifts as an intuitive and a healer through trauma. That I had these gifts and abilities, but I didn't really understand what they were, knew what they were, and I kept ignoring it. And I literally had a gun put to the back of my head. And then that led me down this spiral of PTSD and other health issues. And through it, though, in my healing process of it, it helped me to discover my gifts as a healer. The more healing I did through myself, I started to find my clients that I was working with, they started having drastic changes in their lives. And their their healing was able to go deeper and deeper and deeper, even to the point that we started going to past life regressions and inner child healings, and all these crazy things just started happening on my table the more work I did. But I spent so much of my time fighting it that I kept hitting these blocks. And it finally just came to a place of, okay, I give up. I had to surrender. I just had to just trust that it was whatever it was without trying to understand all of it. And it was through that surrender that I found flow and I found peace, and my gifts began to develop even more. And through discovering this in myself, I was able to pull it on my clients and help them to remember who they were at their core, tap into their gifts, their abilities, so getting them to work through their trauma and come to their own trust process and their own surrender. So it's really just that return to self and finding oneself through the struggle of it and coming out on the other side and going, oh, why was I fighting this?
The idea that there are gifts inside of the trauma is obviously very difficult to understand while you're in the trauma. It's always retrospect. But that even then, not everybody sees it, the opportunity or the gift there. Tell me a little bit more about that in terms of your process of waking up to that.
For myself?
Yeah.
it wasn't an easy process. A lot of it, I started working with embodiment coaches and self-love practices and all these different things. And I mean, I literally had strangers would walk up to me in public and go, wow, you're a really powerful healer. Like people just tell me like, hey, you're in it too. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? And it wasn't, I just had these people kept trying to pull it out. And they're like, Mary, like, why is this so hard for you? And I'm like, I wasn't seeing what other people were seeing, but I had people just kept kind of nudging me along and giving me these different tools. And then finally, it was like I break down layer by layer by layer, and each tool gave me more access to the next layer. And then that would take me to a new level. And it just kind of became this like unfolding. It's been a really beautiful process. And there's always expansion and contraction, right? With any type of trauma and healing. And, it's just, you just have to work through those layers and keep peeling it back, peeling it back, peeling it back, and just trust that it's going to take you exactly where you need it to be.
Yeah, trusting that process, and how it, you are open to it. So that's the first thing I want our listeners to understand. Really, first step is just be open to what's in front of you right this moment. So you can see, a little bit differently. There can be a different perspective. I think that we make the feelings inside mean stuff, and then we block ourselves up almost immediately. So you can just be open and say, what else is possible here? It's one of my favorite questions of life ever. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Melissa, tell us about your amazing chapter.
So my chapter is 22. The voices in my head said I wasn't crazy, and how they proved I was sane. This really hit home to me because I'm used to talking about my trauma, but I'm not used to talk about how I hid myself. So I'm a seer. I've been a seer since I was born. I've seen angels and demons and spirits and ghosts and symbols and all of these different things. And it would be so overwhelming that I would actually not function in this reality. And people could talk to me and snap around me, or I'd be walking and I'd walk into walls, found out and fall downstairs. And this is something actually, until this story, I hadn't told anyone. So this is my coming out to you guys to say, be brave, because I hid myself. And while the rest of the world was trying to wake up, I was trying to fall back to sleep because I wasn't normal. And so in that moment when I finally got woke to the point I couldn't fall asleep anymore, literally by a ghost coming into the room and pushing me down. And that's what started it, that I didn't have a chance to fall asleep anymore. And I had enough science, I had enough research, and there's enough out there for all of you now to start proving our theories. And so now I'm in a time where they said go, and I started listening to them and stopped listening to the counselors and everybody else. And since then, I mean, I've been blessed. I've been on it. I have yet to have anybody prove me wrong in any of my theories. And that's what brought me here to Brave Healers. And we're doing documentaries and TED Talks and everything now, because I finally saved my soul by giving it a voice.
I love what you just said, though, because you've written for several projects already, yet you told something in this one that you hadn't shared before.
And never with anybody. I actually had to sit my family down beforehand and say, I'm going to sound a little crazy in this. And it's something I hadn't told you guys, but I used to really tune out, and I was in a lot of counselors' offices, and they were trying to diagnose me with bipolar or schizophrenia, autism. I mean, whatever they could, and they never came up with anything. And it was just medication after medication after medication. And, so yeah, I hadn't told anyone just because, I mean, I was crazy back then, and who wants to share that? I can share my trauma, but to share how I seemed crazy, it was a little harder for me. So yeah, Brave Healer does it again. It pushes me to the limit.
It's going to be important for people to hear this, because they've been to 50 doctors with no diagnosis. They've been where you're at, and they're just like, that, this is it, man. I got nothing else. And I think I want to thank all of you, Melissa, all of you, though, all of the authors of the project too. You didn't just say yes to this. You said yes to something that you didn't even know what to expect when you got into the middle of it. And of course, I kind of knew, and do my best to guide you along the way, but I'm still blown away by people like Melissa who say things like that. And it's like, wow, I didn't realize. And then all of a sudden that moment of healing, right? So writing your stories heals you. It also heals and helps guide the reader. And there's so much win here in terms of energy and healing and the collaboration. I could go on and on, right? So thank you all for saying yes and for sticking with it and not like quitting in the middle when you were in tears writing your chapter. Just like, you know, you guys could have said, nah, I'm out. Like, I didn't expect this. Like, I'm not going there, right? But you didn't. You're warriors, right? And that is why I put the word brave in front of it. There it is right there. So, you know, thank you for being those kinds of humans. Ashley Hubler, I'm going to start with you for this next question. I'm coming around to all of you for this, okay? My own spiritual voice was about, or finding it, was about sharing things that I thought others might have criticism about. It was about sharing, even though I was afraid of what they might think, right? Sound familiar? Mm-hmm. And I call that kind of fear purpose-driven because it has to do with something I was born to do. I know that now, of course, right? So I want to know from Ashley Hubler first, did you have any resistance to sharing the spiritual stories at first? Why or why not?
So initially, I was very careful with who I shared with. I mean, I've always been somewhat open just because, you know, that's my rebellious streak. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be who I am, and you're just going to have to deal with it. But I mean, I had come to this point where I'd realized I was basically like compartmentalizing my life. There was this one side of me over here, and then this other side of me over here, and they weren't allowed to touch. So these last couple of years, I've really worked on, you know, blending those two and like becoming a whole being. And what I found is, and I shared this previously, but when we take time to understand the other person's model of the world, and we explain it in that way, it opens up doors to better understand one another. So whenever you're, you know, going to have that hard conversation and be like, hey, I had this vision. Hey, the voices in my head are saying, you know, framing it in a way that they can relate to and that they believe helps tremendously.
Yes, no doubt. You know what? I keep waiting for you to kind of divulge the military aspect of your story. Like when, you know, we're listening to, like we're looking at you and like there is this piece, you guys wait until you read this piece of Ashley's chapter. How much did that shape your resistance to sharing?
So being military intelligence, everything had to be backed up. Right? Like you had to have supporting documents, much like you would in college, right? And cite your sources and show them how you came to this conclusion. But oftentimes I would really struggle with explaining how I came to conclusions because I just knew. I'd be standing in the room and they're going over something and I just get it. And I thought that, you know, my knowing, my understanding in predictive analysis was normal. Until I got into this leadership role and I'm trying to teach these soldiers. And I'm like, I don't understand why you don't get it. Like, and I'm thinking it's just simple critical thinking, but it's not. It was so much more than that. I had a warrant officer that used to drill it in my head. He's like, you are not normal. And it eventually it stuck. And then that's when I was able to kind of start dropping to their level and starting from there. Because that was one of the biggest challenges for me when you intuitively know something and then you presuppose that somebody else is right there with you when that's obviously not the case in most circumstances.
Thank you for sharing that. This piece is really interesting to me. And of course, I think we all have a level of this gift. We're just not all taught it from the beginning. And y'all have such interesting stories about where this came in on the timeline of your life, you know, and I love that you all can share in your unique voice because there's someone out there listening that needs to hear it the way you have to say it, the way that your situation went down, that right? And so that's the place that is going to give them permission to do it as well. Mary, how about you on this one? So did you have any resistance to sharing at first? Why or why not?
I tried to get out of this project and Dianna wouldn't let me. So yes.
There's the
Yes.
answer to that.
Yeah, no. So it was really funny because I met Dianna at another book writing project with you, and I was kind of stuck in that. And then Dianna approached me. She had read an excerpt. I can't even talk today. Sorry. And it kind of drew her attention. And she was like, I want to know more about your story. And so she interviewed me and we talked about it. And I was like, this is a hell yes. This is what I was writing. And I was super excited about it. And then the deadlines came. And I was like, I can't do this. And I reached out to Dianna. I was like, give my spot to somebody else. I'm sorry, it's last minute. I was like, and she was like, no, Mary. She's like, this is for you. She's like, I don't care. She's like, we'll work it out. She's like, you're in this book. And I'm sitting here getting goosebumps as I'm talking about this because, the whole thing is about resistance, and here I was, even into the very last minute of this, my resistance was showing up in full force. And if it weren't for Dianna stepping in, being like, no, like she saw me, just like all my other coaches did and my therapist did, like she saw me and she said, no, this is important and you need to be here. And then as soon as I said yes to it, then the chapter just flowed. And it was really interesting that this was the part of my story that came out. So all the resistance was there, but Dianna wouldn't let me back out. And I'm really grateful that I did it. And I just kind of was like, okay, surrender, fine, I'm here, I got to do it. So it seemed appropriate.
Yay, Dianna, good job. Good job. Keeping them in here. We're laughing and joking, but it really is kind of hardcore feeling when you get into that. And that's why I asked the question of you guys, because resistance, when we can feel it in ourselves, is a huge gift, isn't it? Like when you can understand it as the opportunity, but I know I spent so much of my life not connecting with that as any kind of opportunity, just sucked, just like not a good feeling. So thank you, Mary, for sticking with it.
Thank you.
Melissa, how about you? I know part of these answers, I've heard you talk about this before, but where in the journey were you feeling that resistance to sharing the spiritual stories and, or not? Maybe, it's gotten easier, I'm sure.
Well, I've had resistance all my life in trying to share my stories, and I kind of learned how to shut them off because the churches and my family and the doctors and the counselors had all told me I was crazy. So resistance has always been there. I think what was different was for me was when I actually got the empowerment, and it switched from resistance to empowerment. And that was a moment in my life when I actually had somebody step into my office and tell me what a sinner I was and what a horrible person I was, and that the demons are going to come get me. And she literally got on the floor and had prayed for the demons to be gone out of me. And she was in the middle of my office and she said, what do you have to say about that? And at that moment, I channeled and I said, Jesus said this, John 14:12, truly, truly, I say unto you, for those who believe in me will go on to do greater. And so therefore I choose to do greater. I don't choose to equal. I come down to the floor with you. And I also pray the demons out of me. And if there are any demons or any evil within inside myself, please let it be for the rest of the world that has been saying the same thing. And God, strike me down right now if that is true, because the belief in myself right now, it tells me that you're real. And that was the moment when my resistance left and my empowerment went, but resistance had been.
Holy crap, Melissa. Yes. Oh my gosh. Wouldn't you guys have loved to have been in the room when that went down? So that might have flown over a couple of heads just now, seriously, but like, that's badass, girl. I love that you just shared that. Like, not only did you put the person in their place, but you did it in language they could understand. And I love everything about that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Will you put that one in your next chapter, please?
I'll try it. We'll see what the next one. I never know what these things are bringing up until I sit down. Let me tell you, I did not think I was even going to ever share the story I did today, even in this one. And so you never know, but yes, one of the chapters.
you like so many people I know, there was a religious aspect to the story, people, places, pastors, that community that put people in such a small, tight box, right? So being able to talk about it now here is brave. And it's always brave when y'all come out to share your truth and experience with other people who have their beliefs and their truth and their experiences, right? So thank you for doing that. So Ashley Moon, how about you? Did you have resistance at first to sharing the spiritual stories? Why or why not?
Not this. The timing was so divine and perfect that I was ready. And, you know, when you ask this question, the way my brain works is I have a million thoughts come up, so I jot them down so I don't go off on some tangent.
I'm here with you, girl. I'm here with you. Yeah.
So because I was already 3 years sober, I was ready to talk about it without the shame that I carried for the first year of sobriety. You know, because it took a lot of humility to accept that I couldn't drink like other people. And a lot of people, there's stigma. I'm highly functioning. I have a master's. I run 2 businesses. And, you know, I have a great life. I haven't ended up in the streets or lost everything like a lot of people. But, you know, I was sober long enough. And like Melissa said, I went from resistance to empowerment when I accepted that this is who I am, but it's not all of me. It's just a part of me, and I'm ready to talk about it. There used to be fear of what my family or my adopted family or people might say, but now I own it and I actually incorporate it into my decluttering magic and empowerment. And I know the power of storytelling. I'm in 12-step programs where we tell our stories and we listen to each other. And that's what saves my life all the time, is hearing my story and other people's stories. And, you know, I just know that this isn't just for me. This is for all of us. You know, when, you know, I also used to fear being too witchy or too new age, and I've released the fear around that. Like my second business is tarot cards and Akashic records. So we're all going to have to talk some more, right? But I used to fear, like, how do I talk about these things? I think Ashley Hubler was saying, like, I had this person over here and this person over here. This is the organizer. This is the witchy girl. Party girl was over here too at one point, right? And I've gotten more free and in the flow by embracing them all as one person and bringing her out into the world. You can take it or leave it. Because I love myself and I have a connection with my highest self and higher power, I don't need external validation anymore as much. You know, like I am a people pleaser, but it's gotten better to where I'm going to write this chapter. It flowed out of me in a couple hours. I went back and reread it. Y'all reread it for me. Like there were no corrections. It flowed out. Like it was divinely, here you go. And one more thing I'll say is that I turned 40 in July. And there's something about this age where we just stop caring so much what other people think. We say and do what truly matters to us and who we are. And that is how we're going to attract our ideal people and clients into our lives anyway. Because how many organizing coaches, declutter coaches, do you know that are also sober, that are also artists, activists, witches, healers? Like, guess what? That makes me unique, and I'm going to own it and claim it and be proud of it. And so, sure, I have moments of fear and doubt and worry, but they don't keep me up at night anymore, you know, and I get to show up and choose resiliency and empowerment over resistance and hiding. So it's been a great experience.
I love it, Ashley. Thank you. Wait till you get to 50, girl, and you're going to be good. 40 was awesome. 50, even better. I always tell people I would not go back. You could give me the body back. I don't care. I would not go back, you know?
Yeah.
All good. So, okay. So I have this next question for all of you, but Mary, I'm going to start the party on this one with you. Okay. There's so much in life that we can't see, but we believe, right? Mm-hmm. I know part of sharing the spiritual stories is to help give other people permission to have the conversations, to help them not feel crazy or alone, to provide a community. And what I want to know from you is about that community. How did that look for you? How is it evolving for you, and what it's meant to you? I know that's a lot of questions, but basically that community in terms of living your awesome life.
Okay. All right. Well, so my story is very similar to a few of yours. You know, I grew up in a very strict religious background. And so a lot of my life, I was taught to fear. Basically, everything I'm doing now, I was taught to fear. I was told it was of the devil, it was wrong, it was all these things. So I had all this fear and this subconscious whatever behind it and expressing myself around that. And what's interesting is a few years ago, I had set an intention when I moved out to Maryland that I needed new people in my life. I was like, I need a community of people that are moving in the direction that I am, not even knowing what that was. But I was like, I need people that are going where I am. And within a matter of months, these people started showing up. I was introduced to a shaman. I was introduced to the Tantra community. I was, myofascial release and all these different things. And all these people I realized were connected throughout Maryland, DC, and Virginia in different ways. And I was like, who knew? By being drawn to this about the body and this about the mind and this to the spirit, all these connections started being made. And it was as soon as I made that decision saying, hey, where are my people? Where's my spiritual team? They started showing up for me. And it just continues to evolve. And then the same thing started happening with my healing practice. I set that intention out that whoever needs to find me will come to me. And just like a magnet, they started coming in. And so the more I began to embrace who I am as a teacher, as a healer, as an intuitive, my community continues to grow. And now, thank God for social media. I mean, I'm connected with people all over the world, in different countries, and astrologists and healers and Reiki and witches and, pastors and all these different walks of life. And it's like, we're all here for the same mission. And part of me doing this chapter for the book is where I've been stuck is how do I bring what I do to the masses, like to community, to larger groups of people? Because everything I've been doing was one-on-one and kind of hidden. Writing this chapter was the next step in me expanding my community. And there's a lot I want to do for empowerment and women's groups and all this. And I feel like this is kind of a jumping point for me by releasing this, showing the world this is who I am, this is how I can support you. And let's come together as a community because we can't do this alone with everything that's changing right now. And all it took was that intention of saying, I know there's more to this. I need my people, and I trusted it and I allowed it, and they've all shown up for me. And it's just been beautiful to watch how it continues to unfold.
I love it. I'm ooh, little echo there, huh? I am hearing every word of that. And sometimes you just have to ask. Like, we want these things, but we forget to ask. We forget to ask our guides, hey, I need this community and I need it to be better, Melissa, talk to me about community in your world, how that's evolved for you.
Well, it started mainly with opening up my shop in Cambridge, and then the people just started coming and they wouldn't leave. And so then we started making a place called Sacred Gathering, where we held that every Tuesday. And then we got too big and realized that we had a new theory of God, G-O-D, generator, organizer, destroyer, and started showing it in that point of view, as well as adding a lot of different religions and science and subject matters. And we opened up then the Church of Theology, and we run strong with that and just bring in different people from different walks of life to give their testimonies, whatever that may be. Either they were sitting in a forest and praying to a tree, or they had a holy Jesus moment, whatever that is. Church of Theology has been my place. And then Brave Healers, I can't even say. We have networks all over the place, as well as, working with people throughout the world and just showing up to the retreats. We host festivals every year that bring in 7,000 people too. So we, as much as we can integrate or outgrade, whatever it is, we've built it strong, and we just tell people be them and go do your own thing too. We want to show up to your festival.
Yes, we do. Oh my gosh. there was a time where I thought that success meant I did it by myself. And when that flipped, talk about an aha moment. When that flipped and I realized that there's no way I would get what I wanted without reaching into a stronger community, like the whole world opens up, right? That's what it meant for me. Um, Ashley Moon, how about you in terms of how has that, what has community meant to you? How has it evolved over time?
Wow. This one really has me thinking because when I got sober, I started becoming more of an introvert and not going out partying so much, I kind of went MIA for a while just so I wouldn't feel tempted to participate, and I really had to reevaluate my friends and my community a lot. I mean, I've always been the social butterfly who's friends with everyone, but I had to really declutter some of the styles of friendships I had in my life to make space for more deeper, meaningful, intimate ones. And so now I would say it's definitely quality over quantity of friendships and community. I definitely get community in my 12-step rooms. And it took me a long time where I couldn't even look at people in the eyes because I just had shame and I felt ugly. And now I can look at people in the eyes and do eye gazing and connect. And there's, the word commune is in community, right? Where I like to commune with nature. I like to commune with spirits, guides. I like to commune with like-minded hearted people. And getting to know some of the women in this group has been incredible. And because I've been so busy, I feel like I haven't made enough time for that. So now I'm inspired to make sure I do that. One more thing I'll share is writing things down really helps. I was super single for a while. It was my superpower. Being single allowed me to stop this cycle of always needing to have someone or be seen or validated by someone. So I worked on the relationship with myself for a while. And I wrote down everything that I would want in a partner, in a potential husband. And now we've been together for 4 months and I hope it's him. We'll see. But the power is he's also sober. He's 7 months sober. I met him because we are part of a community organizing a sober summer camp for adults. And we were both camp counselors. And so that's how we met. And it felt like divine connection through community. And if I'm going to spend a lot of time with someone, romantically or not, it's so helpful to know that you're part of a community that I'm so interconnected with. And so it really makes a difference. And we get to go to some of the same meetings and just be a part of the 12-step community together. And it's incredible. So community is everything. And, I've been a drug alcohol counselor for groups of people, and you help these people becoming sober with 2 things. You got to build a solid foundation and you've got to have a support system. And for the first 2 years of your sobriety, or whatever your thing might be of change or transformation, you want to focus on those 2 things primarily. So what does your support system look like personally and professionally? How can you get out there and create that for yourself, whether it's in person or online? Because we're not meant to do this alone. We're not meant to live our lives or go through changes alone. And I relate to what a lot of you said about, thinking success was doing it myself. And now I'm growing a team of people, and it just feels so good to have, and also building a community of people who want to declutter in so many ways, and I'm excited and grateful. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. I love talking about community because of the magic I've experienced. So I love hearing you guys talk about how it's changed your lives too. Ashley Hubler, how about you? Tell me about what community has meant to you.
So being in the military, I've moved around a lot. So, we would always kind of like keep each other connected on Facebook, but there wasn't really many deep lasting relationships. It was just kind of very surface level. So as I started working towards like integrating, all those compartmentalized pieces of myself, I started finding more people that were, like-minded and had similar beliefs, or were at least open-minded. And the more I was open with people that I didn't expect to understand, the more I was pleasantly surprised with their openness, their curiosity. And it's gotten to that point, like Mary was saying, where you're just kind of magnetizing the people that you need to support you, or that you're supposed to support into your life. I have people, I take every moment and every meeting with an energy of discovery and curiosity, put it that way, because I feel like anytime I encounter somebody and make a connection, there's a message within that and an opportunity within that that's yet to be discovered. And when I do that, I have yet to be disappointed.
Yes. A default to curiosity is a superpower. If we can train ourselves to move there instead of jumping to a judgment, I'm telling you, it's like a life changer. Seriously, I love that. I love talking about that. Melissa, you said you wanted to add a little something about community.
Just tiny. I had my guide screaming over here, yelling over me, saying
Go for it.
we need to remind people. A lot of times we think nature versus nurture, and we're humans. We were born with the first instinct to have somebody care for us, hold us, change us, feed us. Our entire life depended on other people. The worst thing that we can do is to think that we are independent, because our soul, from the very moment that we touched earth, needed other people. And asking for help and crying are the two strongest thing a person can do. And so I just wanted to say, to people that are feeling like they can't tell or say things, you do need community, because you need to be seen, exactly how you just said. We need to be seen and we need to be validated, because that's what makes us real. So go out there and know that we need to be nurtured by other people. Otherwise we fail to be fed by the community.
Yes. Thank you for that. Crying and asking for help. Holy moly. Yeah. The two things nobody wants to do. You spend your whole life trying to figure out how to do that and make it easier. It may not always be easy, but yes, I love that. Okay. So we're going to finish up this party with one last question. And actually, Melissa, I'm going to stick with you to start. And see, I'm going to challenge y'all to do a little bit of the speed dating version of this question. Okay. See if you can do a sentence or two on this. I know it's hard. What piece of advice would you give someone who might be just stepping on a healing path, right? They're just starting this journey, to give them an easy entry point, or something one simple thing to start with? What do you think, Melissa?
I'm going to go with cry. I'm going to say, because when you go into your spiritual journey, you're going to feel so much pain. And the more that you release that pain, the quicker. And crying means you're facing it. You're transforming that energy. It's turning into something else. And you have more energy then to bring it back to yourself, to know what to do from there. And I know these other ladies are going to give you more advice onto that. So
I do love that one. I caught myself the other day. My daughter was on the phone. She's a freshman in college, and she's like, "Mom, I just feel like I want to cry about this or that." I'm like, "Just cry then." Like, just go for it, right? But we stuff that in, don't we? I can feel it right here. We stuff it like right in there. Yeah. I love that,
but our
Melissa.
dis-ease becomes our disease. And so if we can get rid of the dis-ease before the disease comes, we got it.
Yes. All right.
Declutter.
Yes, Ashley Moon. Was that going to be yours? Declutter. Okay. One more sentence about decluttering. Where do I start? If I had to go one place to do that, where would you want me to go?
I was laughing so loud. Did you say for me to talk about decluttering, where to start?
Well, I just laughed because of course that's your answer. Declutter is your simple
No,
way.
actually, you know what I heard? What came to me in that moment you asked it was slowing down and being present and being okay with your pace, because we're so quick fix. We think everything needs to happen right now. I do it too. And to just know that you can take it slow, Take it easy, keep it simple. Your spiritual evolution, you're finding your voice and getting free, might happen gradually and subtly, gently, and then you might have moments of total epiphanies. You just want to trust yourself in the process and take it slow and keep it simple. That's what I got for you. And the decluttering will naturally happen.
I love that one. Actually, the moments where I've slowed down very intentionally, I sometimes will get into the connection with that place that needs to cry. So like the two of
Exactly.
them often go together, right?
Yeah.
Which is why
So-
I think we stay so busy
Yeah.
because we're trying to avoid being in that feeling. But
Yeah.
honestly, it's the freedom that's going to come.
Yeah, don't even get me started, but
I
so
know.
much of our clutter has to do with not being still and present and slowing down. We just
Yeah.
stay so busy and distract and avoid. And my clients end up becoming like, therapy sessions because they have a hard time with that stillness because of the emotions that come up and they're afraid to cry. And one of the things I love about my boyfriend is he cries and he's okay with that. And I'm like, that's so cute. I love that. Anyways, okay, I'm done.
A crying boyfriend is a keeper. Okay. Ashley Hubler, how about you? What would be that one thing you would say to our listeners who are just looking for a very simple entry point?
Okay, so we have self-compassion that Melissa brought. We have presence that Ashley Moon brought. So I'm going to throw in, those were my other two. Learning to discern the difference between power versus force.
So give me one more sentence about how I discern the difference between power and force.
So you hear a lot of us talk about the word surrender in our own way. And for the longest time, I thought that surrendering was like giving up. It was quitting. It's not. It's understanding that you don't have to do everything. It's understanding that when you open up and you're present and you do things with the intention of creating a certain outcome, things will naturally fall into place. You don't have to just go, call, do all the things, and just you're sitting there juggling 20 different balls. It's not necessary. That is force. So learning the difference between power, where you're grounded, you're self-compassionate, you're intentional with your actions, versus that force where you're just trying to do all the things.
Nice. Thank you. All right, Mary, you are going to close out this party today. Tell us your one thing.
Yes, I heard two things. I heard trust, which kind of just piggybacks on what Ashley was just saying. A lot of surrender is just trusting that everything's going to show up for you exactly as it needs to, right? Which brings me to just pay attention to repetition. That is the greatest lesson I learned when I was beginning on my journey, because when you pay attention to repetition, the signs are there. You start to notice the same people show up in your lives, the same types of conversations, synchronicities, like it's all there for you. So I've noticed when things start to repeat, it's something you need to pay attention to. There's something in it there for you. So it's one of the easiest ways is once you just start to recognize all these synchronicities or the same people, same situations happening, that's going to lead you right to where you need to be.
I love that piece of advice. This is ninja moves of awareness, you guys. And honestly, you're all giving gifts of awareness today in your beautiful chapters. And that is life-changing, world-changing kind of stuff. I'm so honored to just be playing in this sandbox with all of you. Thank you so much for what you do in the world, and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so viewers, please take the step that's next and just drop down into our little show notes, because I have all of these amazing authors hooked up with their websites and their links. Take a little next step and click there and explore and connect. These authors are here very generously waiting to connect with you and help you continue the conversation, right? And speaking of continuing that conversation, you all will find Dianna Leeder's free Facebook group, Find Your Voice Women, And that's a place where our authors are with our readers, and you guys can ask questions and get support and all of that good stuff. So that link is also down there. Join us on November 22nd at 12 noon Eastern, because we're going to celebrate the book with a live stream party on the Brave Healer Productions page. You guys will find that event link down below as well. And remember, lastly today, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it's time to be brave, you guys. See you next time. Bye, authors.
Bye.